I felt mean asking you to come here on time, and you did. Thank you. Okay, here's the quiz. Now you are allowed to point. So take your finger and point at the person you met during the break that you had not talked to before. Okay, not everybody's pointing. The pointees, you're beautiful. Thank you for pointing. Great. That's a good point. Nice. Okay. Oh, you have two. Oh, okay, you win. You win. Okay. Okay, I will do this again. So just to warn you, I've been told to ask you to make your network, and this is what I'm doing. Here we are almost ready for Timo. He comes from the biggest inland city in the Nordics. It is Tampere, and it's also the second biggest city in Finland outside the Helsinki region. And he is from the University of Tampere and will...
Applied Sciences.
Applied Sciences. You'll introduce yourself, Timo, okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, now big applause for Timo.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Timo Kivimäki. I'm head of the competence area in media and arts in Tampere University of Applied Sciences, and I'm representing our team from Tampere. We have done some research and mapping about AI, especially generative AI, in collaboration with Tampere University and our teachers and researchers in TAMK. And we have a quite interesting team in this mapping work. We have researchers from university side, we have industrial engineering representatives from Tampere University of Applied Sciences, and also from media side and art side. So we cover quite large area of this topic, and for instance from the engineering side we have common interest areas like 3D modeling and 3D printing and so on. So it's good to try to fix and figure out what is going on in this world and do collaboration. And as said, we started this mapping work during the spring, and we finished that during September, and then we presented this in Mindtrek event in Tampere a couple of weeks ago. So there's like an academic base on this, and this is just a stream, like a stream version about this, stream-friendly version, I'd say. And you can find from the presentation, you will get that later, there's a link to the mapping, original mapping, and there's references and sources from the there are references available there, and at the end of this presentation there's also a short survey for you. So I'm very curious to hear at the end of this session what you have in your minds and what is your vision about this topic. But to the presentation, I think the Drew's previous presentation was a great example of what AI is about and what is the essence of that. But we are focusing more about this AI's impact to transform the work life. So there's a bit different angle for us. And we are focusing on following themes here: intersection of creativity and technology, significance of generative AI in creative industries, and unlocking new possibilities for artists and professionals. So these are roughly the topics here. And as introduction, creative ecosystems are not isolated. They interact with sectors like technology, in manufacturing, and services. For example, the film industry relies on tech for CGI and manufacturing for set designs. And the role of generative AI in these ecosystems. Well, of course, these can be used and are already used as a tool for content creation, data analysis, and even decision making in these ecosystems. And there will be more examples later, just scratching the surface. But what we have found out, of course, is, as a brief introduction, well, AI is developing very rapidly. 1 week, 2 weeks. Okay, big changes. So we have to really focus on this and explore all the time what is happening there. But we feel that we need to be instead of being reactive, we need to have like the proactive approach. And this means anticipating changes and preparing for them. Just like in healthcare sector, they are exploring AI for personalized medicine and making diagnoses. But what we could do in creative sector. And some objectives to understand the impact of the AI on labor, professionalization and management. We will talk about those job roles and changes in the workflows and so on, new skills needed. And to explore the actor network status of AI in creative efforts. So, for instance, AI algorithms can now write music affecting the network of musicians, composers, and producers. But there will be much more examples of this area and from other creative sector areas. Shortly, where we are at the moment. Well, as I said, things are moving fast. What was new 1 week, 2 weeks ago starts to be a bit outdated probably next week. So, and public opinion varies from seeing AI as a threat to jobs and privacy and to a tool that can solve complex issues like climate change. So there's like a big gap between those two extremes. And in between, there are some people who are ignoring the whole thing or just waiting what will happen. There are like 4 different ways, roughly, how people are reacting to this. And also this affects what we are doing, how we believe it. Is generative AI affecting really what we are doing? Are we ignoring that? Are we believers or waiters? It depends on that. And of course, there's an impact on high-skill occupations that seems to be quite obvious. AI is not just affecting manual labor, it's also impacting high-skilled jobs like legal analysis, where AI can now do contract reviews. And reorganization of tasks in various professions. AI is changing job roles rather than eliminating them, at least not yet. For example, in healthcare, AI can diagnose diseases, allowing doctors to focus more on patient care. And then I have a couple of charts. You don't have to read everything because you will get the material later. You can dive into this. But in the middle, there's our art, design, entertainment, and media sector. And this is from Goldman Sachs. And this chart is about automation. So AI could automate a quarter of work's tasks in art, design, and entertainment and media side. Automate a quarter of tasks, potential for that. Think about that. And of course, there are areas which there is probably no effect at all. So on the right side, there's this building and grounds cleaning and maintenance part, 1%, sorry. So not affecting at all. And on the left side, there's office and administrative support, 46%. So there's big differences. And this next one is also from Goldman Sachs. And this is about replacement. So share of industry employment by relative exposure to automation by AI. So what is the amount of automation potentially? And it states that there's replacement in legal and administrative fields, and little effect in manual and outdoor jobs, and productivity enhancement everywhere else. And in the middle, there's art, design, entertainment, sports, and media. And it looks like that there's about 20% which cannot be automated. And in the middle, big section, what can have AI complement features. And on the top, likely replacement to some processes. So, and there's a big differences. For instance, on the left side, building and grounds cleaning and maintenance, it's almost not affected. It can't be automated by AI, at least by generative AI. But these are figures what you can check later on your own time more. Then about this mapping and how we categorized the impact and the network status of AI. You can see there first expanding human agents. AI tools sorry, like Grammarly assist in writing, acting as a digital extension of the human capability to write and edit text. How many of you have used Grammarly? Quite many, yeah. Good helper. Replacing human agency, like chatbots in customer service can handle queries 24/7, effectively replacing the need for human operators for basic queries. So there's no person answering anything, there's chatbot. So replacing human agency. Then cloning human agency. Deepfakes can replicate a specific individual's appearance and voice, raising ethical concerns about consent and misinformation. And you have probably heard about examples of some artists whose voice has been cloned and used in other songs and made new songs. And there's a lot of talk about copyrights and who owns that and who gets what. There's a lot of issues going on there. And then surpassing human agency. AI in data analysis can process and interpret data at a scale impossible for a human, like analyzing global climate patterns. And of course, the speed. How many of you have used GPT-4 or others? Yeah. How many of you have used that for like making a short version of a long story? Yeah, and it does it like that. It's about how you ask it. And this is the big thing here. How you are able to ask in normal language those applications to do things, to generate things. Basically anybody can do that, who can speak and write. That is the game-changing part here. So surpassing human agency, it can produce things really, really fast, but you have to know where to use that. It doesn't fit everything, and of course there are possibilities for errors, and you have to be able to recognize those and ask reiteration and so on. But this is the basic 4 categories. And then I will have some practical examples about use cases. But this is the general overview of the topic. For instance, areas of AI application in different industries. AI is used in translation services, game design, where it can create entire levels, and in music production for composing backgrounds, scores, and so on. And AI's impact on working life transformation, which is the main topic for us today. So AI is changing work dynamics. For example, remote work technology uses AI for better team collaboration. Some tasks and jobs will probably disappear. Some new will be generated. And management of AI in related social professional transitions. Management needs to provide training programs and ethical guidelines for AI use, similar to how ethics committees operate in scientific research. But as a comment about that, about contracts, how largely contracts are like approved and followed at this global situation where we are at the moment. If somebody follows the rules, somebody doesn't follow the rules. So this is very interesting area. And to practical examples. So examples of work-life transformations into creative sector due to the impact of generative AI. And for instance, translation industry, there's an obvious impact in that area. Before AI, translators manually translated documents, which was time-consuming and often required expertise in specialized fields. And after AI, machine translation tools can now handle technical and even some creative texts, freeing up human translators to focus on quality control and nuanced language. An example, real-time translation services in international conferences are now often assisted by AI, allowing human translators to focus to accuracy and context. So it's transforming the workflows and the skills. In music production, before AI, composers, musicians, and sound engineers collaborated to produce music. They went to make music. They went to studio and so on and created music. At the moment, after AI algorithms can now compose background scores and even entire pieces, changing the role of human composers. Example, AI tools like Ava can compose music and AI audio. Synthesis tools can clone artist voices, affecting the traditional roles of composers and musicians. Then game design, of course, that is a huge area as well. Before AI, game levels and characters were manually designed, requiring extensive human labor. After AI can now generate game levels and even character designs, altering the role of the human designers. Example, AI algorithms can procedurally generate entire game worlds, reducing the need for human designers in this aspect, at least with the same role as it used to be. So workflows change. In content creation, before AI, writers, journalists, editors were solely responsible for content creation. After AI, tools like GPT-3 can write articles, affecting workflow and roles. An example, automated news platforms like Automated Insights use AI to write news articles, especially for data-heavy topics like sports and statistics. Then film and video editing. Before AI, human editors had to manually cut, arrange, and synchronize video and audio tracks. After AI tools can now perform basic cuts and even successed edits based on algorithms, changing the role of human editors. An example, software like Runway ML uses AI to assist in video editing, making the process faster, allowing the human editors to focus on storytelling. Also, this can be used also for creating storyboards really fast and even creating videos, which in some cases, I've seen some demos which look quite convincing already. And basically, no camera has been used, no lights has been used. You have been just writing prompts and asking the program to do it. Then graphic design. Before AI, graphic designers used software like Adobe Photoshop for all design elements. And after AI can now success design elements or even create them, affecting the role of designers. And example tools like Canva use AI to success layouts and design elements. and changing the role of human designers. Advertising and marketing. Before AI, marketers manually analyzed data to understand consumers' behavior. After AI algorithms can analyze consumer data and even suggest marketing strategies. So this is actually quite huge. If you think about the amount of data, who is able to analyze that? And that comes available for a very wide audience. And the last example of this, photography. Photographers had to manually edit and enhance photos before and after AI. AI tools can now automatically enhance photos, changing the role and skills required for photographers. So, as we know, those softwares can add their content. They can estimate what it needs to be added there. If you want to make the photo bigger or take something away, it can be automated and made it easy. There are some examples about possibilities, like how generative AI is unlocking new possibilities for artists and professionals in the creative sector. In music production, AI can help discover novel music elements, like new sounds or rhythms, help in making marketing plans, marketing content, and data analysis of streaming services data. In game design, for instance, AI can transform 2D renderings into 3D models and generate new character designs or visual styles, and can be used in coding and making new worlds and so on in many places. And in content creation, AI like GPT-3 can assist in brainstorming sessions, generating ideas for articles, scripts, or even story plots. Nice assistant in there. Visual arts, it can assist in creating complex visual art pieces by suggesting color schemes, patterns, and even generating portions of the artwork or the full artwork. And here we come to the copyright thing. Who owns the copyright? If you ask the software to do things and you iterate it, you don't use the first version, but you give multiple instructions to make it look like what you want to make it look like or sound like. Who owns the copyright? At least, well, legally at the moment, there's no like a solution for that. Then film production. AI can analyze scripts to predict audience reception, helping filmmakers during the pre-production phase and so on, and that making previewed versions of content, like quick sketches of different types of things. And in architecture and design, AI can simulate various environmental conditions to test the sustainability and effectiveness of design, things which would have been impossible previously. And a short reminder about these capabilities of AI. It can expand human agency, clone human agency, replace human agency, or surpass human agency. Think about yourselves and where you are working at or studying at and what you are doing there, into which category you can see your things going on, which have the most potential impact. And some ethical considerations, ownership of and consent issues, of course. Who owns the creative output of an AI trained on public data? Similar questions are being asked in the field of AI-generated art. Automation of human jobs. The automation of factory jobs by AI robots has led to debates about income inequality and job displacement. On the other hand, more people are able to generate advanced results by using text and speech prompting without coding competencies. And so there's a productivity leap in some areas. And ethical dimensions in different industries. For instance, in healthcare, the use of AI in diagnosis raises questions about patient data privacy. In military, what are the limits and how to control processes? And actually, I think this military thing is a bit of like a frightening vision, at least for me, because how you can control or restrict that kind of area, and what kind of simulations they are doing at the moment, and how far it can go. Conclusions. So generative AI is developing very rapidly, and it's not just about automating some tasks, but also transforming roles, workflows, and even the skills required in various creative professions. It's also about expanding the creative possibilities and avenues available to artists and professionals. And we think that there's a need for a proactive, cross-sectoral approach. Here we come to the 8 CEC, how we can collaborate and tackle these things. So as AI becomes more integrated into our work and lives, a proactive approach involving academics, professionals, and policymakers is crucial. By operating cross-sectorally and combining our efforts, each field learning from each other, there's a better chance to add value for the creative sector and those collaborating with it. And there's a quite fresh research from MIT. It was from the 19th of October. So generative AI can boost workers' productivity, but organizers must first establish a culture of accountability, reward per training, and encourage role reconfigurations. And in the article, it was said that there can be about even 40% boost in productivity. And finally, discussion questions. What is your vision? And there's a link to the short survey about those 2 questions. But first, questions. Do you have any comments, questions about this presentation? People are shocked. No.
Thank you for a very interesting presentation. Well, as we know, this AI is very topical at the moment in all sectors of our society and culture. My question that concerns the problem that has not that much discussed, also concerning the creative side of how we use AI, is that there's this thread in many ways, especially producing text, but also I think that adapting this kind of visual elements of artificial intelligence is that there are already signs, for instance, that the articles and the updating of Wikipedia has diminished recently because people are using AI. And lots of the information for AI comes from the internet, including Wikipedia. So there's this problem that concerning this human factor, that the whole human factor is diminishing, and the AI is in sort of a loop that it's taking all the information about itself.
Yeah,
to put
true.
it really.
Yeah,
so how do you see it in the future? I mean, especially in terms of creative work.
Well, that is part of. I believe that that is part of the transformation, how things are changing at the moment, and how we can adapt and be also in the steering role. There comes this proactiveness to picture, how we can tackle that kind of like a development, what we can see, what is happening there, how we can be there steering these things. And in creative work, I believe, anyway, those are a bit generic things, but I think the human is still needed very much, because we can ask and use those as tools. We can really produce the unique content which is interesting and which really is making impact for people. But we just need to be able to use those tools in a very effective way. Not just, don't let them automate the creative part, but let's just use as assistant. That is my vision about this.
Kiitos. Thank you, Timo.
Thank you.
Let's continue the discussions and questions over the next break. Thank you, Timo. And now we have a remote presentation from Ukraine. It is time to start talking about rebuilding in Ukraine. And Creative Europe is calling for proposals to support and collaborate with Ukrainian cultural and creative sectors. And we should now have Mykhailo Glubokoy to tell us more about it. Now it feels like Eurovision. It's like, Ukraine calling. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mykhailo? Yes! Hey, there you are. We hear you good and fine. You are ready to go.
Yeah, thank you so much for invitation. And I'm really mesmerized by the previous speaker's presentation. And I'm thinking how to fit my presentation into the whole framework. I will be speaking about new program that is launched by Creative Europe and implemented by us. So I will start with sharing my screen. The program is called Zmina. And it's a new program of Creative Europe dedicated to support of Ukrainian creative sector and support of cooperation between countries of Creative Europe and Ukraine. So in frames of new Creative Europe program to support Ukrainian cultural organizations and artists, there are 3 programs that are being implemented right now. One of them is called Cultural Helps. This is a program that supports integration of refugees or internally displaced people in Ukraine and abroad through means of culture and arts. And another one is dedicated to cultural heritage. It's pretty specific. But the third one, which we are implementing, is called Zmina. And its role is to create and showcase works of Ukrainian cultural organizations abroad and create new cooperation opportunities. So the project is implemented by us, Izolyatsiya, which is cultural foundations from Ukraine, but also by Transeuropalis, big international network of cultural organizations, one of the oldest one in Europe, and Mali Berlin organizations from Slovakia, which is also doing a lot of jobs supporting Ukrainian artists and creative sector. So we as Izolyatsiya is an organization that was established in Ukraine in 2010 in the east of Ukraine, in the city of Donetsk. It was a former factory in a really similar fashion, the way KooPee is a factory. And this was a big installation materials factory that was abandoned in the beginning of 2000s, and we turned it into a big cultural center. Unfortunately, in 2014, it was taken over and turned into torture camp. So even right now, as we're speaking, our cultural center is used as a illegal detention center and place for executions. And it's been like this from 2014, and unfortunately, it hasn't changed for 10 years already. So we put all the information and some witnesses' testimonies on this website if you're interested. It's always really important to mention that. But obviously, we'll be talking about rebuilding today. And Zmina Rebuilding is a project dedicated to build new projects or show projects connected to rebuilding in a wide sense. So we are talking about physical rebuilding, but also about rebuilding of identities, visions, building future ideas for working together, living together in post-war situation, post-war rebuilding in recovery. So this is open for all kind of sectors in culture and also in creative industries. So all sorts of organizations can apply. And it's also obviously open for countries of Creative Europe. So it's not only European Union, but also, for example, Georgia and Tunis. So it's quite wide. And the program is divided into 4 calls. One of them is already done. Second one is going to be finished soon in the beginning of November, with the idea to start projects implementing in January. And the next call will also start in January. So it's also possible for organizations to apply again later in the beginning of next year and start implementing projects in the summer. And what's really important for us is obviously international call today. We're talking about cooperation between Ukraine and other Creative Europe countries. And I think it's important also to look at this not from the perspective of just supporting Ukrainian artists or, doing this charity kind of work, but also benefiting from experience of Ukrainian organizations who are showing really strong resilience right now and doing amazing projects in really hard situations. So from that perspective, we believe that European organizations can build new projects using this experience in their communities, working with their audiences, and there's a lot of space for this kind of cooperation. So these projects have to be implemented outside of Ukraine in one of or more Creative Europe countries. And there are 2 really important parts of this. One of them is that we want, during the implementation of the project, people to talk about reconstruction, think about this concept, not only in Ukrainian context, but also in context of your communities and what it means for you in 2023, 2024, in a situation where we live in now, which is, of course, not the best years for humanity. And then, of course, it's really important for us to increase visibility and showcase capacities of Ukrainian cultural organizations. So for that, we envisioned all the projects to have so-called high visibility event. So projects that will apply for the funding, they are obliged to have high visibility opening, premiere, party, whatever it is, that will bring a lot of people, stakeholders, that will see the potential of this cooperation, that will help to build sustainability of these projects, of this relationship, and we'll see future cooperations between organizations and countries. So this important part of the project, it has to be written out in application, but from our side and the side of our partners, will help to build the audience for these events, to find the proper stakeholders, to invite them. We also have support of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, for example, to involve diplomatic corpus and so on and so on. But this is also really important from that perspective of building new connections and building new cooperations. So the budget for the project is quite generous. We are proposing organization to have up to 60,000 euro for their cooperative projects. The budget can be distributed in different ways, so it's up to you how you can have small amount of money used in Ukraine. You can have most of the money used in Ukraine and then present results of your production somewhere else. It's up to you. For each call, we'll choose amount of projects that will fit into 600,000 euro. So it's usually 10, but this can be more, of course. And there is 10% of own contribution that we also ask partners to put into this. The call is open for all sorts of cultural organizations working with cultural or creative fields. If you're talking about organizations coming from other Creative Europe countries, there is no limitation for kind of organizations that can be partners. If you're talking about Ukraine, unfortunately, we cannot work with organizations that are registered on occupied territories. And we cannot work with organizations that are state managed as a part of state because of the money limitations and the payment systems. But you can still work with educational institutions, for example, and it all really depends on organization that might come as your partner in Ukraine. But there is really important limitation that all organizations have to be at least 2 years old since the start of their activity, since their official registration. So this limits, unfortunately, some organizations from applying, but this is the limitation that is coming with the project. And I think it's also possible to find partners that are not limited by this time scale. So all the information about the call and all the legal details of it you can find on our website. There's the platform for applying. This QR code leads directly to the call information, and application is not really simple, but we were trying to make it as simple as possible. So it just includes project information about applicants and partners, detailed project description, budget made in a standard form. And we need guarantee letter from each partner because, unfortunately, because during the war, we're also obliged to monitor that our project are not made in the benefit of Russian Federation of Belarus. So this is also a part of application. And yeah, it has to be written in English. So I think it should be easy for everyone to apply. And of course, it's not an English language exam. So it doesn't matter if applicant is good or not, as long as you can understand what they were supposed to talk about. Yeah, we have a number of ways you can reach out to us and ask your questions. Every Tuesday, we have online info sessions that you can join, ask your questions, talk to us, maybe ask to help you find a partner. There's all sorts of questions. We are really happy to meet you and answer. You just register a day, like 2 days in advance, so we will prepare and maybe prepare some answers for you. It's all on our website, so don't worry about that. There's also this email address, mina@izoliatsiya.org, where our managers will answer your questions in text as well. And yeah, and if you have technical questions, there is also info@izoliatsiya.org that is ready to help with that. So yeah, this is our call. I hope I was efficient and helpful. And we are waiting for applications coming either in the beginning of October or later in January. And I think we have a couple of minutes. So if you have any questions, I'm at your service and I will be happy to answer them.
Mykhailo, applause first. Do we have a few questions? Here we have one. One moment. We'll get the microphone, so yeah. There you go. And please introduce yourself before the questions so we know who you are.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Fukuma. I'm the director of Trans-Europe PALS. Hi, Mykhailo. It's not a question. It's more to say that we are a few from Trans-Europe PALS here. Raisa also is on the board of our organization. So if you have any question that come to mind later about this great program, please don't hesitate to come to us. Jada is here too, so we will be happy to answer your questions.
Very good. Thank you so much. More questions or comments? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Krista. I'm from the Northern Dimension Partnership on Culture, and this is my question is not so much about this initiative, which is interesting and important, and thank you for the presentation. I would like to ask your thoughts how us as peers from the arts, culture and creative field from the northern part of Europe and Europe in more wide, how we could actually support the Ukrainian peers. I think this is a question that many of us try to figure out and find a way to communicate, collaborate, support peers in Ukraine, and I would like to hear some of your thoughts about that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, it's not an easy question because there's so many things we can do together. You know, it's we can talk about this for hours, and we also discussed this a little bit today with my colleagues. That the idea that last year there was a huge support coming for Ukrainian cultural sector, which was, you know, basically everything that is Ukrainian is good. So there was a lot of projects coming like from different quality, let's say. And now, of course, there is a lot of discussions about making it more sophisticated, making it more interesting, and also working with local communities, addressing this to make sure that, you know, people are still interested in the content, you know, that so that it's not something that, you know, there's another Ukrainian exhibition, you know, we are not interested in that. So I think localization of cooperation is really important. So in a way that you can help explain Ukrainian counterparts what works well in your context, how they can work better with your audiences, how to make their projects more interesting and suitable for your context. So I think this is one of the things that could be really beneficial. And then, of course, general capacity building, because we know that Nordic countries have a big experience in working in cultural field for ages. You know, I've been to a festival in Denmark a couple of years ago that exists from 60s, you know, and in 60s in Ukraine, you couldn't imagine any kind of independent culture. So of course, this experience and knowledge is really essential. So this kind of capacity building programs could also be really beneficial for Ukrainian cultural producers. Yeah, but I mean, this is extremely wide topic, and obviously we could talk about this as a separate session for quite a long time.
Thank you, Mykhailo. One more quick question. Yes, please introduce yourself and let's keep it quick.
Hi, my name is Esko. In terms of capacity building, I noticed the criteria are that all of these things have to happen in countries outside of Ukraine. But with a lot of projects who have Ukrainian partners, I noticed the idea of going to Ukraine and doing capacity building there seems to be kind of out of the question. And I understand some organizations have very low kind of insurance risk appetites, but some people in this sector are willing to go there. So I'm wondering, what are the kinds of, to avoid this trap of, you know, war tourism and going to get nice pictures where it is, what are the useful things people in a position with resources and the risk appetite to do it can come to Ukraine to usefully help build capacity there from a cultural point of view?
One of the things that is really important is that for the last, I know, couple of years, 5 years, there had been really successful big decentralization processes going on in Ukraine. So I think it's really important to pay attention to smaller communities, organizations that are working in smaller cities with local context. And they are really eager, they are really zealous to work. They have a lot of, you know, internal resources, but they also need some help in developing of their capacities. So I think that, you know, not going into big cities or not working with very well-known organizations that already are on track of doing big projects is one of the key features, at least from perspective of our organization. And then, of course, the topic of you know, projects. I think for us, it's really important that all the cultural projects are made in benefit of local communities. So it's not a project that, you know, like an artist comes to present his or her reflection on the war, for example, which is important, of course. But in our case, it's really important for us so that artists will come, start working with local people, ask them questions, build new project in the context, understanding their perspective, understanding their experience, and that they together take ownership of new cultural projects. So this approach is really beneficial for everyone, and it's also if it's done properly, right, it prevents artists from doing basic war tourist things like shooting film about the war and bringing it back, and that's it.
Thank you, Mykhailo. Please stay with us because we have some music for you from your city, actually. So we have Lukas Stasevskij. Do you want to set up already? Lukas is a Finnish-Ukrainian cellist and a filmmaker. Lukas was born in Tampere, remember the biggest inland city in the Nordics. But he was in Kiev when Russia attacked Ukraine. And Lukas decided to stay in Ukraine, help people by playing music, of course, and in many other ways, and also documenting what's going on as a filmmaker. And but he's here for us today. So Lukas, whenever you're ready. Mikä?
Moi kaikille, hello everybody. So my name is Lukas Stasevskij. I am Finnish-Ukrainian cellist and film director. I correct a little bit, I haven't born in Tampere, I born actually in Tallinn. But I moved to Tampere, no problem. But I moved to Tampere when I was 4 years old, just when the Soviet Union collapsed. So I little bit introduce myself, like my story, why I am actually in Ukraine. So in my home in Tampere, at that time in beginning of 90s, there was not too many Ukrainians present in that city. So we had very strongly present Ukrainian culture in our home. We spoke Ukrainian, wrote in Ukrainian. Father put us to know Ukrainian history, but otherwise I was just a normal fellow guy from Tampere. So very long time I really didn't know what to do with my Ukrainian roots, especially when I was first time in Ukraine when I was 10 years old. My father was speaking that Ukraine is fantastic culture with 10 times bigger tomatoes and berries than in Finland, and there's great singing and culture. But when I came in 97 to Ukraine, I saw in Kiev, the capital of city, I heard almost just Russian language, which I didn't even understand at that time, and there was like a lot of aggressivity. Maybe I felt the shadow of the Soviet era. But when I was 17 years old, I saw the pictures from Orange Revolution, and maybe that was the moment when I started to feel somehow connection to my Ukrainian roots. I started to be interested about the Ukrainian culture and about the whole history, what's going on. And for me, as a representative of the classical music and maybe the academical or cultural world, for me it was shocking when I saw that very often Ukrainian artists like Nikolai Gogol or Mykola Hohol or Ilya Repin, Alexander Dovzhenko, very many artists were presented outside Ukraine as Russian artists. And when I started to figure out what's going on, like why so many artists are actually like presented as Russian artists, I started to seek the information about it. And the thing is that already 300 years Russia has done everything with the cultural appropriation to make sure that Ukrainians, from their point of view, they wanted to express for the other countries that Ukrainians, they don't exist, that we don't have our own culture, we are not unique, we are not separate nation. So that was for me like a big, somehow it felt for me very important to start to work on that field. I started to write some articles for Finnish newspapers, but still, especially after 2014 revolution, I felt that it's that I want somehow to face my Ukrainian roots better, and when it was Corona years, I decided to move to Ukraine, 2021, to make Ukrainian films, and what I saw in Kiev before the war was that it was doing the first steps to be European country, and but still I felt like this peripheria approach from many people. But many people were saying that they want to move to either Russia or to Europe to work. They didn't really see the unique values of Ukrainian own culture. There was a lot of people from 2014 who were working in that field, but still majority of people were still like in the isolation of their own identity. And I remember 2 weeks before the war, some taxi driver told me that nobody will do anything if Russians will come. So when actually the war started 24th of February, it was pretty shocking for me how everything changed dramatically. I was already on second day of the war with my friends doing Molotov cocktails, and on that moment I thought that they are crazy people, that what they are doing against the tanks. But the bigger thing what I saw was the huge change of Ukrainians who stayed in Ukraine. In Kiev, before the war, I would say that majority were speaking still Russian. A big amount of people, most of my friends and people I know, they switched their everyday language to Ukrainian. Nobody forced them to do that. And this positive energy what I got from the very beginning of the war, when people suddenly started to think about the future of Ukraine, like they didn't want anymore. The same people who told me before the war that they want to move away, they say that now they don't want to move away. And I started myself looking my own place in Ukraine. I haven't been in army, so I was thinking about that, but I was asked to play cello actually in Bucha and Irpin, and in first I thought that what is the value of playing cello in the wartime. But after I played first time, I saw the reaction of the people. I think that the power of the music, for example, is that you can express so many things what you can't express with the words. And that's one thing. But I think that even the more important thing is that through the culture, it's actually flourishing now in Ukraine in many, many ways. There's a lot of songwriters, films are doing and everything. It's the way for Ukrainians to express that they exist and to remind every day for themselves that why they are fighting for, what is actually making them different from Russian people. And I think when I heard you have a fantastic venue and topic to speak about it, that I think that the reason and the value of the culture is becoming more and more important in these very difficult times for Ukraine. It's actually one of the most strong weapons. It makes people every day the reason to fight, and it gives energy to fight and think about the future of Ukraine. And what I wanted to say is that, like Churchill told, that if we are not fighting for the culture, what are we fighting for? I think that's a very, very topical question in Ukraine. As unfortunately, Ukraine, as a Ukrainian government, they can't put too much money now, invest in the Ukrainian culture. But I think that it's a huge mistake if the Ukrainian culture makers, they are not supported. I just came from Kiev. There was a film festival in Kiev, and I saw maybe the very first films made by Ukrainian people, and they were reflecting on 90s. There was three films I saw, and they were all about the very difficult period of 90s. And I think for Ukrainians to better understand themselves, they really need to be supported to do their own culture. Yes, let's just check what's the time policy. Yes, and also like what I have seen in the power of the culture is that like we Finnish people, we can formulate like our thoughts, for example, what comes to the climate change, or what comes times about our values, let's say the equal rights of the people and everything like that. And I think without the freedom of speech and without culture, we couldn't be that what we are nowadays. So I would say that to better understand each other, we should first understand ourselves. So the piece what I played in the beginning was Bach Prelude, of course, and that was the piece what I played in Bucha in April you can express in so many ways. Of course, so other piece what I played was more radical and maybe even aggressive piece, because I wanted to express myself how I felt. So I will play for you now the scherzo movement from Divertimento of Krzysztof Penderecki, the famous Polish composer who died a few years ago. And after that, if you have any questions, I am happy to answer.
Lukas Stasevskij. Wow. Kiitos. Thank you. There's time for one question. I'm going to do it myself. What are your thoughts about rebuilding in Ukraine. And maybe the question we had before from the back, what can we do?
Yeah, like in Ukraine, I am kind of like a secret agent because basically I am Ukrainian, but I am Finn. And so I'm thinking very much from perspective of Finnish people, and I'm reflecting a lot like why Finland is so good country, in my opinion, the best country. And I think that if I would need to say like one thing what I would like to be part of is that the Finnish library system, like for example audio, like that it's like a place for people to be, gather themselves. It's not just books anymore, it's like in audio there is all the time some cultural event going on, like Ukrainian libraries, unfortunately, they're still back to SSSR, to Soviet era, and I think that when we are speaking so much about the like Ukraine should go to Europe, and I'm very often asking like what kind of West you are wanted to go. Like I am fully supporting like Finnish social democratic system where the people, no matter from which backgrounds they are able somehow to be part of the society. And I think that this social democratic point of view, like how we have built Finland, I think that could be very, very effective. That the Ukrainians, they would feel themselves part of this new Ukrainian culture, new Ukrainian identity. It's actually a very historical moment when, maybe first time in the history, Ukrainians are united and they are seeking these new elements of their identity.
Well, thank you, Lukas.
Kiitos. Kiitos paljon.
Whoa, this is a hard transition to make onto the next one, but it's going to be harder for you, KooPee, to follow up, so, I'm not jealous. Now we are moving on to the most important cultural and creative sector economically, and that is the gaming industry, of course. And actually, Lukas, where are you? You're also, okay, he's also part of the game music collective, so maybe we can use that as a transition here. Our speaker, KooPee Hiltunen, is the director of NeoGames Finland Association, and this is the hub for Finnish game industry. KooPee will be talking about emerging narratives and technologies, such as, surprise, AI, sustainability and new ecosystems. Ole hyvä, KooPee.
Thank you, Mikko. As you said, I feel a bit misplaced here after Lukas' performance, but I'll do my best. And I actually just noticed that I'm the only thing standing between you and break, so I try to be swift also. So, as Mikko mentioned, I'm KooPee Hiltunen, I'm the director of NeoGames Finland, which is the Finnish Association of the Games Industry. And we have been around since 2003, so 20 years. Kind of monitoring the development of the Finnish games industry. And we are also part of a EGDF, which was established in 2007, so 16 years monitoring the progress of the European games industry. So we have a little bit of background about this topic. And we are actually, at the moment, we are doing a study for EIT KIC about mapping games industry in Europe and some things which are at the moment seen as a trends in European games industry in many different levels. And this is our basically mission statement to this study. So we are going to map key game industry hubs in Europe. So there is game industry hubs in different parts of Europe in different levels. Then we are trying to identify types of the key stakeholders, starting from startups to the established companies to the non-profit association and so on and so on. So basically who are going to be the beneficiaries of the EIT KIC program possibly in the future. And then we are trying our best once again to make recommendations for EIT KIC, how to basically most effectively impact to the national game industries in ecosystems in the EU. And this is a complicated issue in a way that if we say that European games industry, it sounds like a monolith, but the European games industry is not a monolith. It's different kind of national game industries established in different levels. So for instance, the game industry in Sweden, Norway and Finland is pretty different, although we are neighboring countries. And when we think about Ukraine, for instance, so Ukrainian games industry is very different than, for instance, the Polish games industry, or which is neighboring country to Ukraine, or so on. So this makes it quite complicated. But if you think about the games industry in Europe, so we are 23.3 billion market. So that's the value of the game sales in Europe. So we are basically the third biggest market as Europe after China and USA. And we are 18.3 billion industry in Europe. So that means that this is the combined annual turnover of the European game developers. All these estimates are from EGDF study, and they are from year 21. And according to your Commission report, understanding the value of European video game society, all European video games industry employs around 80,000 people in 5,000 studios. So in that sense, we are, compared to the turnover, we are actually quite small when it comes to employing people, but we are still able to employ 75,000 people. And if you think about the financial value of the video games in Europe or video game sector, it was 3.4 times higher than that of music and around 1.8 times higher than video on demand. So that kind of justifies us to say that we are the biggest content creation industry in Europe. And in addition to this, games are also culture. We are definitely a significant part of European cultural landscape in many, many different ways. Games have been around like 30, 40 years, and we have grown to be integral part of European culture. Well, there should be a map, but the outlines are not very visible. But this is one of the things we are doing. So basically we are, as said, we are mapping the hubs of the European games industry. And if you think about the Nordic-Baltic area, for instance, the biggest hub seems to be in Stockholm with 410 studios and around 5,300 employees. Second biggest in Helsinki. Then there is a big and growing hub in Vilnius. For obvious reason, the hub in Vilnius has been growing dramatically like 1,000 new employees in year 22 and 21 and 22. And of course in Sweden, Malmö, Copenhagen area. Well, Malmö is in Sweden and Copenhagen is in Denmark, but hey, we are Nordics, so we don't separate. So. And then there is this kind of secondary hubs in each of these respective countries. They are typically in regional capitals with university education like Gothenburg or Tampere, which is, by the way, the biggest inland city in Finland, if somebody didn't notice already. And Aalborg in Denmark. And if you think about the total number of game developer studios in Nordic-Baltic area, it's around 1,700 studios. So it's quite a big number of studios in this geographically quite small area. So let's go to the trends. So what are the trends which are changing the games industry in coming years? And with coming years, I don't give you any exact timeline because I'm lousy in predictions, but in coming years. So 5G is one technological trend which creates possibility for cloud-based gaming. So basically stream gaming. Well, I don't talk too much about the artificial intelligence because we have heard like 2 hours of different kind of speeches about artificial intelligence, and the one Timo gave you like some time ago, it was an excellent take on the artificial intelligence in general. But let's put it this way, that artificial intelligence will change games industry dramatically. And I think that the discussion at the moment is that what we do with the artificial intelligence. I don't actually know, but I know that artificial intelligence is like a rising tide. You can't fight against the rising tide. You have to live along one way or another. Because if we don't do it, our competition in China or USA or in some other part of the world, they are going to do it. So artificial intelligence, just live with it. It comes. And as mentioned, tailored games are one of the things this going to create. And one of the things which is fascinating also is that there has been a lot of discussion about metaverse. The problem with me is that I don't know what metaverse actually is. And I think that's a more common problem. Nobody knows what it is. It's kind of buzzwords. If you want to have funding, say metaverse, there will be 1 million in your bank account very soon. But what metaverse is going to be, I don't know, but I definitely see that metaverse is coming, and it's going to be possibility also for the games industry. For many reasons, one of the reasons being that it's maybe a new platform which would allow, for instance, European distribution, which we don't have any European distribution platforms or channels at the moment. So metaverse might be one of those. Yeah, and if you think about the markets, so monthly subscriptions, we have been living in the world of free-to-play, paid license, monthly subscriptions are coming back. For instance, if you think about what Netflix is doing at the moment, or what Amazon Prime is doing at the moment, they are incorporating games in their portfolio. And it's going to be subscription-based gaming, as it is going to be an Apple Arcade and many Epic Store and many other stores. So basically, it's going to change the markets quite drastically. And it's also going to affect to the value chain, which is basically my favorite topic, but I don't talk too much about value chain today. Market fragmentation, regional markets emerge, digital trade wars, we are going to see some of those. One of the things which is kind of pain in the neck for the games industry at the moment is fragmentation, regulatory fragmentation. We have one regulation in China, one in USA. In a bad case, we have different regulation in all of the European countries, and then we have to cope with all of those. So that's definitely something which is also going to be very high on our priority list when we think about the games industry. Consolidation, big players are buying the small players. This is kind of process which has been going on for 10 to 15 years, and it's basically something which is required for the growth of the industry. But the question is, how long is it going to last? Because in order to have a healthy ecosystem, we need to have startups. And if all the game companies are owned by big companies, where is the room for the startups? And platform wars going on at the moment as we speak, Epic fighting against Apple, everything like that. It's going to disrupt the digital value chain. Okay, I mentioned it again, but I promise I won't talk. Maybe once I will say value chain after this. Game culture. Some of the things, I have been in the digital media industry 30 years, roughly 30 years, and all the time we have been talking about convergence. How the convergence takes place and IPs kind of merge and and we have basically same IP used in different medias. And I think that now it is the time. It took only 30 years to actually happen. So now is the time for some kind of convergence to take place. If you think about the obstacles for the growth in the EU area, at the moment, basically if you ask anyone in EU area, what is the biggest obstacle for the growth? It's the talent shortage. So that's the story, actually not only in Europe, but it's a global shortage of talents. One of the topics we have been discussed inside the games industry a lot, like last 5 years, is diversity. So how to make the game companies and game industry as diverse as possible. And so far we have been talking about the gender, or mostly about the gender issue, but there is other issues, like, which comes close to me, like age. So we are getting older, actually. Well, it's not very far away when in the Finnish games industry we see the first ones to go to pension. So it's a scary thought, by the way, but that's going to happen in the near future. Ethnicity is one of the things we are discussing at the moment quite a lot. If we think about game culture, is one of the things, hot topics, user-generated content. So game developers only give the framework for the players. Players actually made the games. This is not teaching. There has been mods for ages, but this seems to be going on the mainstream at the moment. For instance, Finnish companies like Hype or the most well-known example is Roblox. So they are making actually the players or as creators of the game. And even when we go one step further from that, we end up to the no-code movement. So basically that you don't have to know anything to actually create a game. And I know a Finnish company who is actually developing an engine which can create a game based on prompt. So this is an AI-based system which can create a game based on your written prompt. And it's one of the things where the games industry, I don't say that it's heading to that direction, but it's one of the options for the future. And same time, when everything gets easier, well, things don't get more profitable. Because if creating something is very easy and the distribution channels are widely available, the profitability is an issue. This is a little bit like, I don't know how many of you remember karaoke, how karaoke came to Finland in the 90s. So it kind of democratized singing, and everybody was able to be a performer. So it kind of decreased a little bit, not totally, because most of the karaoke singers are bad, but it decreased a little bit of the value of singing. And if you think about enabling policies, so I wouldn't be very good representative of the industry if I wouldn't mention public funding. Cross-border remote work is one of the things which we need to get fixed one way or another. Platform regulation, defining the responsibilities of different parties in value chain. Now it came, third time, value chain. Digital Market Act. Take a look. It's actually one of the most prominent legislations in European Union when it comes to the creative industries and the content industries, because it might give us a possibility to ramp up our game. Harmonized regulation, artificial intelligence, for instance, corporate sustainability. Believe me or not, but the sustainability issues are big in the games industry, because we are people industry. We are seen as a technology industry, but we are people industry. And sustainability comes every day to our table, and we have to take care of that. And yeah, the final remark, what we are trying to do in this project is to define what is the best way for EIT to intervene and help the games industry to grow also in the future. It's a tall order, I know, but we do our best. That's it. Thank you.
Kiitos, KooPee. Quick question about gaming. I see coming up over there. We have 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself. Can we get the microphone to the gentleman over there?
Who?
No, Diaz.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you. I'm just reminding myself of what my question was. It's the no-code movement. If I think about music industry, and then I think about the advent of music software, which enables people who have no understanding of music to create the music because you just turn the damn thing on and then the music comes out. I think that's partly responsible for the tsunami of quality-free content, which is overwhelming everybody. So I guess my question is, do you think that a no-code, full democratization of the gaming industry is a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it's a neutral thing. This is my patented answer. It depends where it takes place. So typically this no-code of movement, it's placed inside certain games. So for instance, it's inside a certain game where it's kind of contained inside the community of that game. So in that sense, it's kind of isolated thing. But if you think about that, you are able to make no-code games, for instance, to the mobile distribution, then it might be quite a big issue for the industry. But on the other hand, it's nothing new. Most of the games in App Store are crappy already, so it doesn't change the fact that most of the games in the App Store are quite low quality, to be honest. So and App Stores, for instance, they have their measures already in place for taking those off.
Great question. Great answer. Thank you, KooPee. Kiitos.
Thank you.
Now, this is not the end of the day. It is the end of the presentations, but the story goes on. So right now, right after this, if you want a tour of the cable factory, this is your chance. It's an amazing complex, and the tour will leave right outside here, outside these doors. But when we leave now, please take your belongings with you, because we're not coming back here. If you want to leave your coats or bags or anything, you can take them to the cloak room over in the cafeteria. It is guarded and safe, so you can leave your things there and take the tour. Now then, after the tour, let's meet for a dinner at the Hima and Sali restaurant, which is at the, if you go out, it's to your right, all the way at the end. And the dinner will start at 9. I'll be there early for... Sorry, 9, at 19, at 7. This is Finland. We have lunch early and dinner even earlier. So yeah, 7 p.m. dinner, and I'll be there early if someone else is early back from the tour. In case I don't see you, I hope I will see you tonight. Tomorrow morning we start here at 9 o'clock. And one promise, tomorrow is not an all-male panel. It just happened. We had a lot of men here. So there are many women presenting tomorrow, so diversity in place. But thank you for these sessions today. Amazing. Kai?
We'll meet at 1:15.
Okay.
So we have a bio break.
So bio break. And then there's a cable factory tour. And then we go and have dinner at 7. See you there.
Thank you.